It's often said in galactic circles that humans are the most unpredictable species. Their bravery or foolishness, depending on who you ask, toward dangerous creatures has earned them a reputation not as the galaxy's greatest warriors, but as its most absurdly curious inhabitants. To other sentient beings, this trait is as baffling as it is endearing. Take, for example, Commander Rowling's first encounter with a human on board his ship. The human, a young engineer named Celine, had just been assigned to Rowling's crew as part of an interspecies collaboration initiative. Rowling was hesitant. The reports about humans were unusual. They were known for their resilience and ingenuity, but also for their bizarre habit of forming attachments to creatures most species would avoid at all costs. This curiosity surfaced almost immediately. Their mission had taken them to Ursana 4, a lush but dangerous planet filled with enormous, territorial creatures. The briefing had been clear. Stay away from the fauna. The planet's wildlife was unpredictable, ranging from venomous insect swarms to colossal predators. Most of the crew took the warning to heart, keeping a safe distance from the thick jungles. All except Celine. Commander Rowling watched, horrified yet fascinated, as the human crouched near a massive feline-like creature with 6 legs and fangs that could rip through steel. The animal growled, clearly agitated, its muscles rippling beneath its obsidian-black fur. Any sane creature would back away immediately, but not Celine. Instead, the human slowly extended a hand, cooing softly. "That's a bad idea," Rowling muttered to himself, expecting the worst. Sure enough, the beast swiped at Celine, claws gleaming. The human yelped, barely dodging the strike. But what happened next stunned Rowling more than the initial recklessness. Instead of retreating or drawing a weapon, Celine laughed. "Mean kitty," she said, rubbing the new tear in her uniform. "I'll win you over yet." Rowling blinked. What did she just say? Celine seemed entirely unperturbed by the attack, her eyes alight with determination. It was as though the encounter had only made her more determined to befriend the predator. She carefully backed away, but her smile remained, as if she had learned something fascinating instead of barely avoiding death. Later that day, during the crew's debriefing, Rowling confronted Celine. "Do you have a death wish?" he asked, unable to hide his frustration. Celine shrugged, still unbothered by the earlier incident. "Not really. It was just curious. If I spend enough time with it, I bet I can tame it." "Tame it? That thing almost killed you." Celine chuckled. "It just needs to get used to me. Most creatures do once they realize I'm not a threat. It's how things work on Earth. Elephants, wolves, even whales, animals like that. We ride them, play with them, swim beside them. They're dangerous, sure, but they're just misunderstood." Rowling stared at her in disbelief. His entire career had been built around understanding the dangers of alien worlds, of respecting their untamed environments. Yet here stood this human, speaking as though bonding with a creature capable of dismembering her was as simple as offering it a treat. Worse still, she believed it. He had heard stories, of course. Rumors of humans casually swimming with planet-sized sea creatures or befriending predatory canines. But witnessing it firsthand was a different matter. Celine wasn't unique. She was the embodiment of humanity's strange, irrational optimism. It seemed ingrained in their very nature to approach danger with a grin and an outstretched hand. As Rowling pondered this, Celine continued, "Honestly, it's not just animals. Humans do this with everything. We find the scariest, biggest thing in the room and decide, hey, maybe this could be our friend. I think it's because we hate the idea of something being out there that we can't understand or connect with. If something's dangerous, we figure it's just because we don't know it well enough yet." Rowling sighed, running a hand over his brow. He wasn't sure whether to be impressed or exasperated. "You realize the rest of the crew thinks you're insane, right?" Celine grinned wider. "I've heard that before. But hey, who knows? Maybe that mean kitty will be our next ship mascot." Rowling shook his head, suppressing a chuckle despite himself. The human's infectious optimism, her unwavering belief that everything had the potential to befriend her, was both terrifying and oddly admirable. Yet deep down, Rowland couldn't shake the feeling that one day, this reckless curiosity would get her into more trouble than she could charm her way out of. For now, though, he let the matter rest. After all, this was just the first of many planets they would visit. And somehow, Rowland suspected this wouldn't be the last time Celine tried to hug something that wanted to eat her. With a final sigh, Rowland dismissed the crew, his thoughts lingering on the strange paradox of humanity, how they could simultaneously be the most fragile species in the galaxy, and yet the bravest. He wasn't sure whether to admire them or fear for their safety. Either way, he had a feeling this mission was about to become far more interesting. Commander Rowland had seen many strange things in his years of service, but nothing quite like humans. After Celine's near-fatal encounter with the Ursana-4 feline, Rowland found himself scrutinizing her more closely. He wasn't the only one. The crew, a mix of species from various corners of the galaxy, watched her with a mixture of awe, confusion, and disbelief. Rumors of human oddities had spread like wildfire through the ship. By the third day, even the most stoic crew members were discussing the new arrival. Some found her reckless behavior fascinating, while others were convinced it was only a matter of time before she got herself killed. Rowland wasn't sure which camp he fell into. One morning, a high-pitched alarm rang through the ship. Rowland hurried to the control deck, expecting an emergency. Instead, he found Lieutenant Cather, a seasoned officer with thick, armor-like scales, standing with an expression of sheer incredulity. In front of him, Celine stood grinning, cradling a small creature in her arms. "Commander," Cather said, barely suppressing his frustration, "this human has, once again, disregarded protocol." She attempted to pet an unknown life form without scanning it first. Rowland's eyes shifted to the creature. It was small, barely larger than Celine's hand, with sleek purple fur and shimmering wings that vibrated in agitation. The life form was clearly distressed, its wings beating erratically. But instead of releasing it, Celine was gently stroking its head, cooing softly, as if it were some earthbound pet. She just picked it up," Cather sputtered, waving his clawed hands toward Celine. "Do you know how dangerous that could be? It could secrete venom. It could bite." "Relax," Celine said, her voice as calm as if they were discussing breakfast. "I checked it out first. It's just scared." "Scared?" Cather stared at her in disbelief. "We don't know anything about its biology, which is exactly why I'm trying to calm it down," Celine replied unfazed. "It's terrified. Look at its wings. Those aren't angry beats, they're panicked. I didn't want it to get hurt." Rowland stepped forward, studying the interaction. Sure enough, the creature wasn't attacking Celine. It seemed frozen between its fear and the strangely soothing effect of Celine's gentle touch. For a moment, Rowland wondered if she was right. Was it possible that humans had a deeper understanding of animal behavior, even across species? He cleared his throat. "Celine, put the creature down. Now." Celine hesitated, but eventually lowered the trembling creature onto a nearby console. It fluttered its wings, gave a startled chirp, and darted away into one of the ship's many ventilation ducts. Rowland turned back to his officer. "Lieutenant Cather, I appreciate your concern, but it seems no harm was done." Cather's eyes widened in disbelief. "No harm was done this time, Commander. But humans have no sense of self-preservation when it comes to unknown fauna. This is the third time she's attempted to interact with alien wildlife without proper safety measures." Rowland sighed. "You're not wrong. Celine," he said, turning to her, "I admire your compassion, but the lieutenant is right. We have protocols in place for a reason. You can't just pick up unknown creatures." "I get it," Celine replied, holding up her hands in mock surrender. "But I swear, I knew it wasn't dangerous. You just have to read the signs. Animals are the same, no matter where you are. They get scared, they lash out. You show them a little kindness, and they usually calm down. Rowland wanted to argue, but he couldn't deny that Celine's reckless behavior hadn't resulted in catastrophe. Yet, there was something unnerving about her confidence, as if she truly believed every alien creature could be tamed by sheer goodwill alone. And what troubled him most was that, so far, it seemed to be working. Later, in the privacy of his quarters, Rowland recorded a message to the High Council. Commander's log. It has become increasingly clear that humans possess a unique ability to bond with life forms across the galaxy. However, this ability is not without its dangers. Just this morning, our human crew member, Celine, nearly lost her hand trying to soothe an unidentified creature. Her actions, while well-meaning, are a direct threat to her safety. I recommend an immediate revision of the interspecies code of conduct. Humans, for their own protection, should not be allowed to interact with unfamiliar fauna without proper supervision. As he closed the recording, Rowland leaned back, rubbing his temples. Humans were unpredictable, impulsive, and emotionally driven. Yet, they had a disarming innocence about them that made it difficult to stay angry for long. Celine's insistence on bonding with every life form they encountered, regardless of its danger, was equal parts frustrating and astonishing. In some ways, it was admirable, but in the end, it was dangerous. He had no choice but to impose stricter rules. As much as he respected Celine's abilities, he couldn't allow her to jeopardize the mission. Tomorrow, he would issue a new directive. No interaction with alien life without direct authorization. It was the only way to keep her and the rest of the crew safe. Commander Rowland stood on the bridge, staring at the galaxy map, but his mind was elsewhere. His latest message to the High Council had yielded a swift response. New protocols had been issued regarding human crew members. It was now official. No human was to be left unsupervised when interacting with alien fauna. Still, Rowland couldn't shake his unease. Celine's behavior had been nothing short of astonishing, but there was a nagging concern that no amount of regulations could contain the unpredictability of a human. The sliding door hissed open, and Captain Yoku, a grizzled veteran from the Zathrix Alliance, entered. Yoka had spent decades navigating the complexities of interspecies crews and had developed a reputation as someone who could handle even the most difficult personnel. Today, Rowland hoped he could help shed some light on how to manage humans more effectively. Yoku, thank you for coming, Rowland greeted, gesturing toward the holomap before deactivating it. I need advice. Yoka chuckled, his reptilian eyes narrowing in amusement. You've got a human on board, don't you? Rowland nodded, rubbing his temples. Celine, she's unlike anything I've encountered. Her instincts, her curiosity, her complete disregard for danger. It's as if she's trying to bond with the galaxy itself. Yoku laughed, a deep rumble that echoed through the bridge. Ah, yes, that sounds about right. The first rule of working with humans: never leave them unsupervised. If you do, things will happen. Rowland frowned. I've already issued stricter protocols. She's not allowed near any unknown fauna without authorization. But even that feels inadequate. Smart move, Yoka said, nodding approvingly. But trust me, it's not just the animals you have to worry about. Humans have a habit of forming bonds with just about anything. I once had a human who named our navigation AI and insisted on asking it how its day was going. Another one tried to build a personal assistant out of a broken maintenance droid. They'll befriend inanimate objects if left to their own devices. Rowland raised an eyebrow. Inanimate objects? Oh, you've only seen the beginning, Yoka replied with a grin. One time, a human on my ship taped a knife to one of the auto cleaners. Called it Stabby. It roamed the hallways for days before we caught it. Rowland's eyes widened. You're joking. I wish I were. Half the crew thought it was hilarious. The other half tried to revolt when we removed the knife. Apparently, Stabby had become some sort of mascot. Yoka shook his head in disbelief. I'm telling you, humans will bond with anything. Rowland sighed. feeling the weight of his responsibilities settle even heavier on his shoulders. So, what do you suggest? How do you keep them from causing chaos? Yoka leaned against the console, his voice softening. You don't stop them, not entirely. That's part of their charm. If you can believe it, humans have this incredible capacity for empathy, for connection. It's what makes them valuable, especially in crises. They can form alliances faster than any species I've ever seen. But you need to channel that energy. Give them something to bond with, something safe. Rowling's brow furrowed. Like what? Yoka's eyes gleamed with amusement. Pets. Pets, Rowling repeated, skepticism creeping into his voice. Earth's governments realized the havoc humans caused when they didn't have anything to bond with. That's why they set up an intergalactic pet shop, specifically designed for ships with human crews. You get them a few safe animals to take care of, and they'll be too busy to make friends with the local apex predators. Usually, Rowling didn't like the sound of that. Well, humans have a unique definition of what's safe, Yoku admitted, scratching the scales on his chin. Some of the creatures they consider pets are intimidating, to say the least. I once had a human who brought aboard a 25-pound feline predator, agile, sharp-clawed, and quick. The rest of the crew was terrified, but the human? She carried it around like a child and called it adorable. Rowling shook his head, half amused, half concerned. I can't believe this is standard procedure. It's not standard, Yoka replied with a wry smile. It's human. You've got to understand that some of the things they love about their pets, speed, strength, unpredictability, are what make those creatures dangerous. You need to be careful with what they order. Ask for descriptions before allowing anything on board. I'll take that under advisement, Rowling said, his voice laced with doubt. But I still don't feel entirely comfortable with this. Yoka clapped him on the shoulder. No one ever does, Commander. But once you learn to work with humans, they'll surprise you in ways you won't expect. They've saved my crew more than once because of their outlandish thinking. They see possibilities where others see danger. Treat them well, and they'll be the most loyal, innovative members of your crew. Rowling paused, letting Yoka's words sink in. Maybe he had been too rigid in his approach, too focused on controlling Celine's behavior instead of understanding it. Humans were unpredictable. Yes, but perhaps their unpredictability was a strength as much as a flaw. I'll make sure we have some safe pets aboard by the next mission, Rowling finally said, a faint smile on his lips. Let's just hope they're not as dangerous as the creature Celine has already tried to befriend. Good luck with that, Yoka said with a chuckle. You'll need it. As Yoka left the bridge, Rowling stood for a moment in silence, contemplating his next steps. The galaxy was full of unknowns, but one thing was certain. Managing humans was going to be far more complicated and interesting than he had anticipated.